Hello friends, today we're doing the activity appending the removed value, and before we get started on that I just wanted to review real quickly what the remove command is, or the remove function that works on an array. So if you remember before we talked about the remove command, and in this case we've got an array of strings. Each element in here is a string. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 strings, and the array name is characters. So characters has 6 elements in it: Holdo, Chewy, Leia, Lando, Kenobi, and Rey. And the indexes associated with each element are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now, if we have the remove command here, we would take the array named characters and say characters.remove at some index. In this case, we're going to remove at the index 3. That's going to remove the element Lando from this array. So if we say characters.remove at 3, Lando gets removed, and then also Kenobi and Rey, index 4 and 5, will move over and change their indexes to be 3 and 4. So now there's only 5 elements in the array, and Lando's not in here anymore. All right. Now, there's something else interesting that happens in the remove command, though, that we haven't talked about yet. And that is that if we take our original array with Lando still in the array and 6 elements, 6 strings, and this time we can say characters.remove at 3 again. That's the right side of this. Characters.remove at 3. That's the same function we called before, but this function remove at removes, it does 2 things. It removes the element at index 3, and then it returns the value that it removed so that we can assign it to something if we want to. So here, when we say remove at element 3, it's going to remove the string Lando, and it's also going to return Lando so that we can say let removed character equals whatever gets returned by the remove command. So the same thing will happen, that we will remove, when we call .remove, we're going to remove the element here, and then Kenobi and Rey come over and they get indexes 3 and 4, but remove character is assigned to the value that was in that element before at index 3, so Lando will now be assigned to the removed character variable. Okay, so that's a pretty useful feature, and I'll show you in a second why that's useful. Okay, now once we have that element, we can do some things with it. So I'm going to run through an example here to show you how we can use that removed element to do some kind of fun things. So I'm coming in here to playgrounds, and I'm going to use not a blank playground, but this answers template again. So if you don't see it, you need to click the see all so that you see the answers template, and that will allow us to print values or show values again. So I went ahead and made one of the answers templates, and we'll go ahead and we'll rename this first thing, and I'm going to call it consuming arrays. Okay, and you'll see why we call it that in a minute. So consuming arrays, go ahead and open it up, and we can get rid of all this stuff except just to note that this show, we've used this in the past, show will print any values that you want it to over here on this right side of the screen. So we'll use that in a little bit here. So the first thing we're going to do is let's make an array of integers. So var array of ints, and I'm going to go ahead and put some integers in here, maybe 5 or 6 integers, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 elements in here. First thing I want to do is let's try the show command out. So let's say show array of ints. Okay, and if I run this, we should get to see the array of ints here. So I can't actually do it like that, though. The way you have to do this is, let's go ahead and put some text in here. So let's say show and then we'll say the array of ints is, and then we'll do our string interpolation to show the value of array of ints like that. Let's try this now. Okay, there we go. So it says array of ints is the array containing the 6 integers 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So that's what this show command does for us. So we're going to try this little activity here before we get into solving the appending removed values puzzle, and you'll see that it's related to what happens in the puzzle in a second here. But this activity we're going to try to do is, I'm going to put a comment in here. We're going to say we want to reverse the elements in the array. Okay, so instead of, I want an array here that instead of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15, it'll have them all reversed. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10, like that. Okay. So one way to do this is, let's just go ahead and create an empty array. We'll call it reversed array. And to create an empty array of integers, we just say array with the square brackets int, okay, and then make an instance of that. Whoops. Make an instance of that. There we go. So that's a new array of ints, but there are no elements in it right now. So if I went ahead and said show this, just like we did here, I'll copy this and paste it here and say reversed array is reversed array. Let's see what it says is in there. So array of ints is the original array of integers, and reversed array is an empty array of integers. Okay, now let's go ahead and see how we could maybe do this, where we take elements out of this array and put them into the new array. Well, one way we could make a reversed array is if we took out this element first and appended it to reversed array, then 15 would be in here. And then if we took out this element, it would, and append it to reversed array, that would be second, then this one would be third, then this one fourth, fifth, and sixth. So I remove these elements starting at the last element each time. It will, and then append that to reversed array, we would have a reversed array. So let's give that a try here. We're going to need to make a for loop that goes through every element in array of ints. So let's do that here. Let's say for something, I don't care what that is, in the range 1 to array of ints dot count. Okay, remember when you say dot count of something, it is the number of elements in the array. Okay, so I'm going to go index 1 up to the number of elements in the array. In this case, that'll be 6. So 1 to 6, I'm going to do something 6 times here. And the thing I want to do, I'm just going to go ahead and put some comments in here, is remove the last element of the array. Okay. But I want to hold on to that. Hold on to the last element of the array. Okay, and then finally append the last element of the array to reversed array. Okay, so that's going to be our algorithm for reversing the array. Is first we're going to remove this one, but hold on to that value, and then append it to this reversed array. Then we're going to remove the last element again, which will be 14 at that time because 15's gone. We'll hold on to it and we'll append it to reversed array, and so on, all the way through this. Okay, so let's tackle this one at a time here. How do we remove the last element of the array? Well, at this point we could probably just say, if we say array of ints dot remove, and then it wants to know the index that we want to remove at. Well, the index is always going to be however big it is at any given time minus 1. Okay, because right now the count of the array is 6, but we really, because the index starts counting at 0, it's going to be index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if there were only 5 elements in the array, then this would be index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So each time it's going to be however big the array is minus 1. Okay, and we know how big the array is because it's always array of ints.count, okay, minus 1. There we go. So that's always going to be the last element of the array, no matter how big it is. Okay, so we're going to remove that one, and then we want to hold on to it though. So remember this, if we just say remove it, we're not holding on to it, right? But I could hold on to it if I'd say something like this: let value equal what's returned from this. Now we're holding on to it in value, just like we saw in the slide earlier. We remove this element and we hold on to it by saying let value equal whatever gets returned by the remove command, because the remove command returns what it removes. Okay, so value will have that. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this comment here. And then finally we'll append that value to reversed array just by saying reversed array dot append the value. Okay, so if we try this now, I think this should work. Where we're going through and we're doing something 6 times, and the thing we're doing 6 times is we're plucking off the last element of the array, we're holding on to it, and we're appending it to reversed array. Then we're plucking off this one, we're appending it to reversed array. Then we're plucking off this one, and each time this array is getting smaller. Array of ints is getting smaller each time because we're removing an element from it. Okay? This is called consuming an array. So we're consuming the array of ints. By the time we're done, there's going to be no elements in array of ints, all right, because we're removing one from it each time. But as we do it, we're building up reversed array. So let's try this. Okay, great. That worked out just fine. Just to prove to ourselves that array of ints has been totally consumed, let's go ahead and take this right here, and we'll print out the array of ints at the end here, and it should be empty because it's all been consumed at the end. Okay, there we go. So that's how you can reverse an array. All right, so now we're going to move on to the puzzle. And again, the puzzle's name is, I think it's called, let's come into Learn to Code here. It's called Appending Removed Values. All right, so in the puzzle Appending Remove Values, let's read through this here. The goal is to remove coordinates from one array while appending to another. Okay, so it's a lot like what we did in our activity where we reversed the array. We're going to be consuming coordinates from one array and appending them to another. So it says sometimes you want to use an item that you remove from an array. Fortunately, a removed item is stored for a short time, or it's returned from the remove function. So you can assign it to a variable or append it to another array. And they give an example here. But instead of using integers, they're using coordinates here. In the code above, it says the coordinate appended to new array is the one that was removed from the right column. So here they're saying append to new array what's removed at index 1 from right column. All right. Let's look down here. It says you may have noticed that right column is initialized with a method. The world instance includes a set of methods that lets you quickly create an array containing all coordinates in a column or a row. So we can do things like, say, world.row1, which will give us an array of coordinates. World.column5 will give us all the coordinates in column 5. Top rows and so on. So let's look at these steps here to solve this puzzle. It says the one thing we want to do first is create one empty array of coordinates and use a method to create another array of all coordinates in row 2. Okay. So create an array of all coordinates in row 2. Well, if we look up here, they show how to do that. It's just world.row2, and then we can assign that to something here. So let's try that. Let's say world.row2, and we'll assign this to be a variable called, say, maybe row2, something like that. All right, now if I go ahead and do help on this, hopefully that will show us that it's an array of coordinates. Okay, it's this array of coordinates, all the coordinates in row 2. And maybe just to make sure this is working how we think it is, let's go ahead and put something on every one of the coordinates in row 2 just to see if this is doing what we think it is. So I'm going to go ahead and put a gem because I like gems. So I'll say for every coordinate in row 2, the thing we just made, let's place a gem on there by saying world.place a gem at, and I think the way this goes, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and let autocomplete help us out here. World.place, there we go, that's the one I want, a gem at the coordinate. Okay, so this is going to go through every coordinate in row 2, and it's going to place a gem at that coordinate. Remember, this right here is getting replaced by every coordinate in row 2. So I don't think I can, I'm going to comment this out because this will create a bug for us. By the way, it's been a while since we've talked about this, but to comment something out real quickly, you can hold down the command key if you have a keyboard and put slash, and that will put comments in front of everything. The other thing you could do, of course, is do something like this, slash star, and then end it with a star slash down here. And that's making everything inside here be a comment, so it's not going to be executed. So now we're only executing this part right here. And let's go ahead and run this. And great, so it's putting gems on here. And it looks like if I say this is row 0, this is row 1, and this is row 2, so the coordinates that are getting put in our variable row 2 are all these coordinates right here. And let's just see how many of them there are here. There are all the way up from index 0, up to index 19. So that means there are 20 columns in here, or 20 elements right now in our row 2 array. So row 2 is an array of coordinates with 20 elements in it, and those represent these coordinates right along this row right here. Okay? Okay, let's move on here to solve this puzzle. The other thing we need to do is create one empty array of coordinates. Now that's saying right in here we want to create an empty array of coordinates. And the way we can do that is just to go ahead and say, maybe we'll call this, I'm going to make it a var because we're going to want to add some things to it, I think. So we'll maybe call it, how about this, my array of coordinates. You can call yours whatever you want. And it's going to be an array of coordinates. So the way we say that is with square brackets, coordinate. And we need to create then an instance of it like that. So there, we've just created an empty array of coordinates. Okay. Let's go ahead and uncomment these things now. And we'll read up here. It says, each time the outer loop runs, remove an item from the array and append it to our empty array. Okay. I'm going to choose a random element maybe to remove from this right in here. So we could say we need to get an index that we want to delete from this, right? So maybe we'll say something like let index to delete equals some random integer. I'm just going to do this randomly. So the way to do a random integer, random int right here, from some range to some range. Well, let's start at 0, and let's go ahead and do that all the way up to the end of the array, the last index in the array, and that's again row2's dot count -1, something like that. Now we could have just used I in here instead of index to delete some random number. You could just say where we're going to delete the where we're going to remove this here, we could have just removed at index I, but that's kind of a little bit boring, and it will just remove them in order. I want them to remove it randomly. So okay, so the coordinate that we're going to remove, let's go ahead and say let deleted coordinate equals, we want to remove it from row 2. So row2 dot remove at, and the index we want to remove at is index to delete right here. Okay, so now we've deleted a coordinate and we're holding on to it here. This will remove it from row 2, so it'll no longer be in row 2. Row 2 won't be size 20 anymore. It'll be 19 and then 18 and then 17 and so on. And we're going to remove it from there, and we're storing it in delete coordinate right now. But then the next thing it says to do is we want to go ahead and append it to our empty array. So our empty array is called my array of coordinates, and dot append the coordinate that we just removed. So deleted coordinate is getting added to my array of coordinates. Okay. Okay. That looks good. What's the next thing? So that was each time the outer loop runs, we removed an item from the array and appended it to our empty array. Good. Let's also now in here, let's say iterate over the empty array, placing an instance of type character at each coordinate. So that's down in here. So for, we want to loop over our array of coordinates. So go ahead and copy this. So for some coordinate in my array of coordinates, we want to place an instance of character here. Okay, so how will we place a character here? Well, we could do something pretty simple, which is just say world.place some character, and let's just go ahead and do that. In fact, I'm going to create the character up in here first. So I'm going to say let chosen character equal a instance of character. Okay, that's it. And then world.place is we're going to place an item, and that item is going to be chosen character at the coordinate. Okay, I did this way. I could have just put character right down inside here. I could have put this right here, right down in here. But I want to, a little bit later here, I'm going to make some random characters and then put random characters on here just to make this a little bit more interesting. Okay, now what's going on in here? This says for some coordinate in row 2, it's going to place some blocks. So we'll go ahead and say, yeah, for coordinate in row 2, which is our row 2, we want to place blocks. Now, let's think about what's going to happen here. I think row 2 is going to be shrinking all the time because row 2, we're removing an item from it each time. So maybe this isn't always going to have the same number of blocks in it. Maybe this number of blocks is going to change each time because we're removing an element from it. We won't always have the same number of blocks at each one. So I think that'll be kind of cool effect here to show us what we have here. What happened to this here? My array of coordinates dot append, whoops, we don't say equal there. we say it's the append, what we put in parentheses, what we want to append. There we go. That looks better. Okay, let's try this and see what happens here. We're going to keep the gems in here just to see what happens. Okay, it's putting the gems in. I'm going to actually run this a little faster. Pretty long puzzle here. Okay, now it's placing those blocks. So you can see that it's placing blocks, and each time because we deleted a random element out of row 2 each time, there's less and less on here. There's less and less coordinates in our array randomly. We plucked out each one. So at the end, inside here, there was a coordinate here, 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 and here. But these other ones had been deleted from it before. Okay. All right, cool. What's it saying here? Did you know that when you initialize an instance of character, you can choose which character you get by using the name parameter? When you initialize a character, pass in one of the 3 enumeration choices. So we don't always have to use this character here, the default one. We can choose one of these other ones. That's pretty cool. So let's try something funny here. Let's try to, instead of putting the same character in all these places, let's go ahead and make a random character. Okay, so the random character, instead of just making a character here, let's choose a random number between 1 and 3. So I'll do that every time. Every time we have a coordinate, we're going to get a different character. So let's say let random, well, right now, let's say random character number. I like to make my variable names pretty descriptive. Equals, and then I'm going to use the same thing I used up here, random int, but this time the range of random numbers is going to go from 0 only up to 2, because we're going to have only 3 possibilities, a 0, 1, or a 2 for our characters. That's because we have 3 different character names. Okay, then depending on what this random number is, either 0, 1, or 2, I'm going to choose one of these different character names here. So let's have an if statement in here, and we'll say something like if random character number is equal to 0, then we want our chosen character to be, in fact, let's move this right here. Let's make it a var first, var, and we'll get this out of there, and we're going to move it up here. Okay, so at the beginning, we're going to get just the default character, whatever comes with it. But if we choose a random number that's 0, we're going to say, okay, now chosen character is no longer going to be this character. It's going to be character given, let's make this name be byte, I guess. Name is .byte. .byte. Okay, so if our random character number is 0, we're going to make the character be byte. Else if we say random character number equals 1, then we want chosen character to be not byte, but blue, like that. And else if random character number equals 2, then we want chosen character to be hopper. Okay, so that'll be dot hopper, something like that. Okay, there we go. That should do the job here. So we're picking a random character number from the range 0, 1, and 2. So it can be either 0, 1, and 2. We're going ahead. I'm actually going to go ahead and move this up to the top. We don't have to do this each time. Let's just do this outside the loop. So we've got a variable chosen character, and we're going to replace chosen character each time depending on the value of the random character number. If it's 0, it's going to be bite. If it's 1, it's going to be blue. If it's 2, it's going to be hopper. Okay, let's give that a try here. Actually, before we try that, I don't want to just do this remove 12 times. I want to do this 20 times. Okay, because that's how many rows or columns we have in our row. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to do it for every one of these. Not just the 12 times. I want there to be 20 different possible sizes of the wall here. So let's go ahead and run it together here. Run it a little faster. So it's putting our gems down. It's putting all the blocks first, and then the next time through it we'll have removed one. There, that one got removed. Next time through it'll have removed another one. That one got removed. Next time through it removes another one here. Next time through it removes another one there, and then there, and then I'm missing it. Oh, it must have been way over here. So it's removing a different one each time. There we go, and now hopefully we'll get random characters in here. There we go. Nice. So we've got random characters each time instead of just the same character. Okay, I like that. That looks nice. Okay, so just to review here, the main idea, besides having a little fun here with random characters and random wall lengths, was that you can do something like consume an array. So we started out with row 2 that had 20 elements in it, and we're removing an element each time in this for loop that goes through 1 to 20. We're removing an element, so each time row 2 gets a little smaller. It goes down to 19, then 18, then 17, then 16, all the way down to 0 by the end. But when we remove it, we're holding on to it with this value called deleted coordinate, because we're going to append that deleted coordinate to my array of coordinates. And my array of coordinates is what's getting looped through down here to decide where to put your characters at the end. So, all right, that's it for this activity. I hope that makes sense. I will say that there's another useful, application for this idea of consuming an array, and maybe we'll do this in a future video, but think about if you're playing the game War with a deck of cards. So you have 52 cards in your deck, and what you'd like to do is maybe choose, the top card out of that deck, and it's a random card because you've shuffled them. And when you choose that random card and you play it, it's going to go into a discard pile, and you never want to choose it again. So that same thing here is what we would be doing, is removing the top card each time, so that the next time when we get a new card, that card is no longer available to be chosen. There are only 51 cards to choose from. And you do it again, and there will only be 50 cards to choose from, and so on. So that's the same idea here. If we did an activity where we wanted to play War, for example, you would use this idea of consuming one array to create another array. All right? Okay, everyone, thanks for watching. See you next time.